Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Anthony J. the Wolf Hunter. I am a son, firstborn son. I'm an older brother. I am a future father and a future husband and an investor. I'm also a class 23 Morehouse graduate. I studied finance. And today, talking about my journey home. It has been tough being one of the youngest people in these conferences. And I come into the room and I'm like, yeah, like I have smart things to say. That's fine. But I hurt a lot. I grew up a student athlete. I'm an artist. I'm creative, and still, like I go unheard in many situations. And right now, it's actually tough for me to be here because I'm hurting, and I'm working on how can I just be here and enjoy every single moment. And the hurting didn't start this year. It started a really long time ago. This is my mom's first house here on the right, or on the left for you guys. And we lived in this house when I was 3, 4 years old. And that age, I actually got sick with a bone disease called osteomyelitis. And what the doctors told me was, you know, or what they told my mom was, your son's leg is not going to grow. And it's probably going to grow regularly, or we might have to amputate it. And in the process of treating my osteomyelitis, they said that they might burst my heart with all of the antibiotics that they were pumping into my heart. And that same day, they tripled the dosage. Oh, yeah. And I'm still here. I had my own little pursuit of happiness story with my mom. She had me at 22 before she even went to Spelman College. And so when I'm like, all right, cool, she's 22 and she was 25 around this time when I was 3. I grew up with my mom, and so I know what it's like to see the adult that's raising you like figure things out and go through the heartache and go through these issues. And growing up with my mom led me to ultimately graduating from Morehouse College. This is my house. I bought this house from my dad. It's a lake house. I got 1 acre to myself. It's a beautiful home. And this is actually my mom and I. She's the one in the red there. Us a few weeks ago at the HBCU Pan-African Global Trade and Investment Conference, of which I was the key sponsor and one of the speakers in their panels. And I want you guys to pull your phones out because I don't have time to walk through the rest of the slides that I have here. I spent a lot of time focusing on legacy. And the things that I'm about to bring up in a second, this is everything that I've been working on right now to live the life that I'm supposed to be living, to be the man who I'm supposed to be. Okay, one more concept before. I focus a lot on planting trees under whose shade we will never sit. I make decisions for my grandkids who do not live yet, and the children that I haven't had yet with my wife. And I think about myself as a seed, and every idea that I'm planting with you guys today are seeds. And I hope that in conversation today, we are planting seeds of love and compassion. I learned this from Thich Nhat Hanh in the book, The Art of Communicating. I told you about this book. And the things that I learned from this book really focus on communication, exposure, and nurturing. Okay, take a picture of this slide. Communication, it's like your feedback loops. So ask yourself these questions whenever you're in conversation with other people and yourself, because what communication does is allow you to figure out whether or not you're doing what you're supposed to in a moment to understand and then execute or to advise. Exposure. Exposure is your environment. This is all of the resources that you have access to. And it's also the people who are taking up the space and the resources with you and figuring out how you can share those things with them rather than competing for the resources. And then the nurturing. This is where we get the influence and the socialization. These are the messages that we are teaching people and pushing them towards. These are the groups that we are telling them to like and dislike. But these are also the ideas that we feed into people. So when it's hurt, we're feeding people's hurt. When it's anger, we're feeding their anger. When it's love, we're feeding love. Communication, exposure, nurturing. Thank you.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm a little hoarse today, and I have a really good reason for it. Um, I have been trying to get one of my friends to talk about his mental health for about 10 years. And I finally cracked him open last night, and I said, bring over a bottle of wine. Let's go. And we went to some places that we needed to talk about for a long time. Um, and that's what I did last night. And I'm hoarse because I drank a lot of wine. And I had a great conversation with him. So, hi everyone, I'm Newton Chang, and I think of my life in three buckets. I'm a family man, I'm a world champion powerlifter, and then I'm a leader in the field of health and performance. And what that means is two things. I'm director of health and performance here at Google, where my amazing team, many of whom are here, oversee a lot of the amenities that support the physical, mental, social, and spiritual health of our Google community. And then additionally, I have been doing a lot of mental health advocacy work for both the workplace and beyond, as well as within Google and beyond. And let's talk a little bit about what that looks like. So back on January 18th of 2022, even though I am an expert in the field of health and well-being, and even though I have this amazing experience as a world champion competitive powerlifter, I still ended up in a bad place, and I went on mental health leave. And the most honest thing I can say is that I did that because I was ashamed of how I was showing up as a husband and father. I was terrified of hurting those I loved most. And going on mental health leave was an act of desperation because I didn't know what else to do. Now, many of you saw me speak at this event last year. Here I am again, continuing this journey. When I came back to work, because of the field I work in, I knew the data both inside of Google and beyond. I knew how many people were struggling just like me. And so I said, I'm going to come back, and if I'm asked to tell my story, I'm going to do it. And I was asked to tell my story, and I said, okay, well, I'm going to keep doing that for at least 12 months. What I found was that I thought that no one would listen and it might be a one and done. The exact opposite happened. There were two things that stood out to me about it. One is that no one ever said, this is the most incredible story ever. What they kept saying was, your story sounds exactly like my story. And that made them feel seen. The second is my speaking schedule is booked out through the end of this year. People are trying to give me money now because everyone wants to have this conversation out in the open. I'm being very mindful of conflicts of interest if there's anyone, all the Googlers here. But there is just such a hunger to have these vulnerable conversations out in the open. So that's where we're at today. Now, as I continue this journey, I get a lot of questions like, well, what are you doing? Like, so you're speaking pretty openly around your mental health. You're posting on social media. So there's two parts to my vision. I got to a bad place with my mental health because honestly, I didn't juggle these roles very well. I was trained that I have to get straight A's in everything all the time. And so I'd take on more things. Now I'm doing powerlifting. Now I got 2 kids. I'm married, and I'm going to get straight A's in all of it. That didn't work. I burned out hard. So instead, I am making some hard choices about the trade-offs between these roles, but I'm also being very discerning about how these roles can actually contribute to one another and to make each of the different roles better. And I'm trying to build this into a virtuous circle. I'm going to go to the next slide, and I hate this slide. It never came together, but someone gifted me with a better way to close this presentation. So, okay, I'm a former engineer. I like building systems charts, and so this slide's getting a little busy. What I intended to say was that as I go through this process of redesigning my life so that I can not just maintain better mental health, but I can build the life I want to live, I'm going to go out there, take what I learn. I'm going to teach it to audiences who will bring me in, And then I learn from them because when I tell my story, they reciprocate. And I learn more and more about how we take care of ourselves and each other. And then I reapply it. Still don't like this slide. So instead, I'm going to close with this. Yesterday, a friend of mine in my organization pulled me aside and said, "Hey, I feel like I have to tell you this. A lot of the senior leaders around you are kind of buzzing, and they're going, what exactly is Newton doing right now? Because it kind of looks like when he posts all this stuff on social media, does he have 1 foot in and 1 foot out?" And my first reaction, I don't know if we can swear here, but it was F you. And then I took a moment. I'm like, okay, respond, don't react. I'm like, okay, like you reacted there. Like, why did you go there? And I thought about it and I'm like, you're damn right I have 1 foot in and 1 foot out. And you know what else? So do all of you. But what I'm going to do differently is I'm going to tell you about it. I'm going to show you what it looks like to have 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Because so many of us are struggling because we feel like we have to hide that. And we have to make it look like I'm all in on my career and my achievements. But it's at the expense of that 1 foot out. And that's where we live our lives. That's where all the magic happens, with our families, with everything else outside of your career. And so, yeah, I got 1 foot in and 1 foot out. And so do you. And so I'm going to live my life that way.
Akwe, hello everybody. If you haven't met me yet, my name's Autumn Rose. So Akwe, Autumn Rose, Musquemin and Nuxqua, Natasa Weiss Williams, Nachashayawank, Shinnecock, Nachapayawank, Mukwa, Nado. My first name is Autumn Rose, and my Shinnecock name is Musquemin and Nuxqua, which means Raspberry Star Woman, because I was born during the raspberry season on a starry night. I come from the Shinnecock Nation. Shinnecock is the Native American tribe I come from. I'm Afro-Indigenous, so I'm Black and Shinnecock, and I am from the Bear Clan. And for me, I have always been a curious and energetic person who has been put into leadership roles, but has never gotten the guidance on how to be in a leadership role and gotten that support in that. When I turned 16, I became Miss Teen Shinnecock, and I was told to go and travel to all the different Northeastern tribes and speak. Speak about what? And it was a wonderful experience, and I got to meet a lot of people, and I grew and I learned a lot of different things in many different ways, but there hasn't been a Miss Teen Shinnecock prior to me becoming it for 10, 15 years. So that guidance wasn't there. That understanding wasn't there. And I continued to be daring and to be fearless. Manawisas in my language is I fear no one, or to be fearless and step out of the comfort zones and the status quos of where I lived. But I didn't always know how to be in certain spaces. And later on in my life, I became Miss Native American USA. And I was the first contestant to win from the Northeast. And I was the first contestant who identified as being Afro-Indigenous. That was another opportunity where I got to learn amazing new things. But it was also a learning curve on how to be in that leadership role and how to be representative, because I am from Shinnecock. I'm not from Navajo, I'm not from Seminole, but I had to speak and be a representative for Indigenous people. And as an Indigenous woman and as a Black woman, a lot of the times I'm in spaces as the only person. So for me, my journey has been a journey of learning and trying to understand how to be in spaces that nobody else around me has been in, and how to navigate those spaces and try to build that learning so I can open up new paths for those behind me who might want to go into those different positions or into those different rooms. And most recently, I have chosen to try a new path. And in this process, I am still finding myself. And that's kind of where I want to close because I am taking a new career journey and I don't know where that's going to end up. And I'm still trying to figure out where exactly that I want that to go. So I share in my mental health journey of my ups and downs is that it's a process and to really go within that process and see where you end up. A lot of the times when I face those fears and I am Manoises, the best rewards are on the other side.
I'd like to invite the panel to come sit. So we have some time. Thank you, Anthony. And I'd love to have a discussion. I'd love to have a discussion with you all. I want to also just say that there's a concept called work devotion, a sociological concept by which if we see ourselves as devoted to the ideal of being hardworking, devoted to our jobs, never quitting, right? We are seen as leaders. That the devotion to our work is a worthy thing in and of itself. And Newton, I feel like you're saying no.
Actually, I came up with a reframe on this, and I think this is being recorded. I'm like, I feel like at some point I just need to say this in a place where everyone's going to hear it. After the layoffs at the beginning of the year at Google, I was really angry. And it took me a while to start to get to a better place where I felt like I could start to truly re-engage. So I went and had dinner with my boss, and I said, okay, I think I'm in a better place, but I think my relationship with work is different now. Like, I am still devoted to my work, like to just use the words you used. I'm very devoted to my work, but I don't work for Google. I work for Newton Chang. Google is my primary investor. I'm dedicated to Newton Chang and his mission. As long as my primary investor and I are aligned, like, great. Like, keep investing in me. I will keep taking that check. If we get misaligned, then I should stop taking the check or you should fire me. But I think I can provide you great value. So let's continue this partnership. So I am 100% devoted to my work. I thought I worked for someone else, but I work for me.
That's badass, Newton. Anybody want to ask a question or bring up a thought? And we can discuss it with our panel.
Hi, I'm a professor at Winston-Salem State University, and I often see students who I want to assist. We do have a wellness center. Most of our students do not like to go there. And even when I refer them, I just referred someone there who I think really needed that. She came back and said she didn't understand me. She was judging me, so I can't go back. I would like ideas for other things I can do. It's not in my capacity to be, I can listen, but I can't really help them with the professional help that they need. And if our wellness center is not providing that service, what other suggestions do you have for me? And I'm interested from a recent student perspective as well as from your perspective, Newton, as a professional.
Well, you just spoke. I'll say wellness centers are very important. It's so interesting because we can refer people to get therapy and we can refer them to getting help, and then it's like when you get there, if you're not talking to the right person, then it does more harm than it does good. But that's not because of your suggestion; it's just because those communication styles may not have aligned. What we've got going on in the AUC right now in Atlanta, with Chill, a residential student organization, student led, with an advisor who is one of our counselors on campus. It puts the power in the students' hands to say, we all know that mental health matters. We all know that we are important. We all know that we have our priorities in school. We're trying to get this degree. And we're still going to make the space to talk and to put together programming around continuing the conversation instead of going to the black box, which is the wellness center. The black box is a wellness center, or the wellness center is a black box. And so I encourage you to figure out how to get students to build their own organization, their own club, and to have their own programming and to rent out rooms on campus to at least facilitate that space so that they can talk amongst themselves rather than the superiors who they oftentimes feel are judging them. That's like one key thing that I feel we can do, and we can continue to talk about this later.
I'm sure you were at HBCU too, so I'm sorry. You were also at HBCU, so you know some of the stereotypes students have to get past. And that's the thing that worries me. They'll talk to me. I'm not so sure that the student thing. So I would be interested in how you got past that, because there's a lot of stereotypes around that still.
No, for sure.
I guess I'm curious, with that student, were they specifically looking for therapy, or
She came with a problem. I recognize she went from an A student to failing two classes, withdrawing from one. There is something going on. I did call her parents and said there's something going on that has not helped the situation. So I can recognize the signs of when something's going on with the student, and I don't know what it is, but I know she needs help and she needs to talk to somebody. So my role is to try to get her there, and so that's where I am, and I don't know what happened.
yeah, I have so many different thoughts on that. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink kind of thing comes to mind, where so it sounds like she went, so she might want it, but I know for me it was, I didn't really realize the understanding that I need to shop around and figure out a therapist that works for me. So like communicating that is helpful, and sometimes just listening helps that person be more encouraged to find somebody who can listen in a professional capacity. So, which it sounds like you're definitely doing. So those are the two things that come to mind. And also, if she's like put off by therapy or doesn't feel like that worked, thinking about like that person and what does that person like and where does that person find comfort and support, because it doesn't always have to be therapy. It could be different. So for me, sports or art. For some people, it might be their religion, or finding different spaces where they can find community until they're ready to really talk and address it. Yeah.
Say anything?
I was going to talk about community, but I think I agree with everything you said, and that was an excellent way to close it.
Don't all speak at once, y'all.
You know what we could do if we have multiple mic runners? I don't think we all need a mic all the time. So
Thank you. I'm burning my calories today.
So my question is just anybody on the panel can answer it, but as it attains to mental health, when you're seeking mental health, how do you go in with no expectations? Because we hear a lot about people saying, "Well, I have to find a therapist that works for me." So how do you go in there with no expectations to actually know if the therapist does work for you, or did your expectations sabotage what they're trying to give you?
When I think, great question, first of all. And it depends on the person. For what I will say for me is when I identified that I needed therapy when I moved back home after college, and I just was going to the resources that were available. I didn't really feel like I had much options, and I wasn't really, I was just kind of responding to the fact that I needed something. And I think just working with somebody, so there wasn't any expectations. It was just like, I feel really down and I don't know what to do about it. And I think that once it wasn't until I got to a better state that I was able to really think about expectations. So for me, there were no expectations when I go in, except for I really just don't want to feel like this anymore. So that's why I say it depends on the person, because like I was at such a low phase where it was just like, I don't want to feel like this anymore. So I had to get to a different mindset to then think about that I need to find a therapist that specifically works with me and what I'm going through.
So thank you. And I just wanted to add to that, I guess, to give you the reason why I asked the question was because a while ago I went to counseling or therapy. And at the time I felt like that, like I'm tired of feeling like this. I want things to change. But I now looking back on it, I think, and I haven't been back since. But now that I think about it, and I didn't go back because I felt like she didn't work for me. But I feel like maybe I had expectations because I'm so used to when I have a problem, I can solve it immediately. So then when I can't solve it immediately and I have a hard time reaching out, when I reach out, I expect that person to be able to solve it immediately. And when she couldn't, I felt like it didn't work. So I stopped going. So, that's why I ask is, you know, maybe after coming here, I want to go back, but I don't want to go with the same expectations that I had last time because I'll end up not going again.
Can I offer like maybe a different way to think about it? And credit goes to my wife. She's like low level upset that I keep getting invited to speak on mental health now because she was like dragging my ass to stuff for years. Not dragging, but she was like the leader on this. Yeah, like I wasn't pulling back that hard, so I didn't make her drag me that hard. But so we started with marriage counseling. She was going to therapy. Eventually, like I decided I needed therapy for myself. But what I found from like going to all these different practitioners, I realized like, oh, this is, even though there's like a monetary transaction here, this is relationship building at a pretty intimate level. This is kind of like dating, or like, okay, like, just because you had one bad date, and you're like, but I still want to find someone, so I'll get back out there. That's what we had to do. And what I found was the right therapist for me was, it wasn't so much that I had to be open, it was that they recognized the particular type of resistance that I show up with, and they knew how to. I was about to say debug that. It's not a bug, but they knew how to address it. And it took a while for us to find, like, I think the right marriage counselor. It took a while for me to find the right therapist for me individually. I had to do a lot of dating, and they had to kind of see, like, oh, I see your tricks. I know how to deal with those.
I think that that's actually great. I like the dating concept. And I think to address the more internal part of this, which is the expectation, I think we want the quick result, right? We want the magic pill that solves all our issues. But I think it's always important for us to recognize, like, I'm 22 years old right now. I have 22 years of programming. Like, when you're finding your therapist, you're finding somebody that's going to help you rewire probably one aspect of yourself, maybe multiple aspects of yourself. That's for you to determine in the conversations that you're having with them. But go in there with the understanding that you have X number of years of training and wiring and programming into who you are now. And that's not a problem. But you are going to have to do time. You're going to have to take the time to do some rewiring. And so I would say be patient with yourself. not just with them, because this is a process that they're uncovering for you.
Yeah.
It's not them doing the uncovering, it's really you doing the uncovering, and you're going to have to spend X amount of time uncovering.
And I just want to say it sounds like you've already done a lot of reflection work. And just by the way you're articulating and asking the question, it seems like you've done a lot of work already since then. I don't know where you're starting, but it I recognize that in your question and in your explanation of what you're seeking. That it sounds like there's a lot of self-reflection and work that you have done too.
Yeah, I have, and I'm pretty open. I have, but I think sometimes that is like my gift and curse, right? Like when I speak sometimes to groups or people, I come with this high level of understanding, but there's a level that I have not achieved that I can't figure out. And sometimes it comes off as like, oh, you got to figure it out. Like my mom used to do that to me a lot. Like I'll talk to her about problems and she'll be like, oh, you figure it out. I know you're smart. You'll get it. And sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But then when I don't, who do I go to? I just learn through experience. And that's not always, to me, that's not always the best teacher, right? Because you struggle, you deal with things when you have to experience every single life lesson instead of getting tutelage or teaching to know how to avoid and know how to cope. So yeah. So I have done a lot of reflection, but I also smart enough to know that there are some things that I don't know how to address within myself. Like you talked about resistances. Like I feel like I have some of those built in. Like I come with certain resistance, and you have to know how to break through that with me because I tend to challenge things. I don't just take the status quo. I'll ask questions. I'll need you to explain it. And for some people, that explanation is hard for them to give. Sometimes to me. So I'm like, okay, well, if you can't explain it to me, how can I trust that that's the right answer?
All that. I feel all that. And honestly, I'm tired of always having to figure it out and not feel like I have support. That's, yeah.
Leadership is not about being alone, right? All right, we have time for one more question.
I have a question. One, Newton, thank you for your transparency. I really appreciated that reframing of, and I love it that Google is my investor. But we've heard a little bit from this panel and downstairs, like how some of the cultural, societal, or generational hindrances around mental health. Do you guys have anything that's you found that has been beneficial that's come from some of those areas in lieu of the hindrances?
I can speak to that from an Asian American perspective. And so this is going to sound bad. When I first started speaking out about my mental health, one of the strongest places of engagement I would get is from other Asian Americans who I perceive to be maybe 5 to 10 years behind me in my career. And like once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. And people started referring to me like, well, as an Asian American leader. And I looked in the mirror and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right, I'm Asian American. Like I just never actually worn that label in the way that they were putting it on me now. Like it was very integrative with how I was showing up to them. It was not integrated with how I saw myself, but I didn't know that until I could see the difference described back to me. And so once I saw that, I was like, okay, this is the opportunity life's given you. What do you want to do with this? And there's this narrative of we were raised a certain way. We can't talk about mental health. We have intergenerational trauma. What I try to reframe is two things. One is yes, we were given intergenerational trauma. We were given very powerful intergenerational gifts by our parents, and that is why like many of us are very successful. So that's one thing. Like they gave us a lot of superpowers. Now, the second question is what did they intend for us to inherit? Did they intend for us to inherit mental health stigma? Like, I don't think so. So, what I've been trying to do to reframe this narrative is to say, what do we want to take from them? What do we want to inherit from them? They're the values of like community, family, taking care of one another. And so I try to tell them they gave us superpowers to take care of each other. For the moment that we're in, where we're in a mental health epidemic, what do we want to do with this? For their generation, it was immigrate to the US and build us a new life. For our generation, it's address this epidemic.
I have to wrap it.
Oh, I sucked up all the air out of the room from the students.
No,
And
no, I think that was fantastic. Yeah. And we have time to talk at dinner, but I'm trying to keep us on schedule so that we don't throw off our amazing evening. So please head down to the main room and thank our panel.